Hello, Wisconsin brewery fanatics. This is Joel Geyer here again for the Badger Beer Report. And today I am talking with Chelsea and Frank from Earth Rider Brewing, way up in Superior. You can't get much farther north than them. And this is a brewery that I know many of us have grown to love over the now, not quite a decade, but getting, starting to close in on that for this brewery. And I am just thrilled to be able to dive into more about Earth Rider with Chelsea and Frank. So first of all, thank you guys both for being able to join me today.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
So can I just start first off, just doing a little bit of background to kind of get where you guys both came from, within the industry with Earth Rider, et cetera, et cetera?
Sure. I'll jump in and start. So in terms of being in the industry, I've been in the industry for quite a while now. I started did an apprenticeship at a brewery in Duluth when that was a thing in the late 90s, and then moved up to Anchorage, Alaska for a couple of years and brewed up there. Made my way back to Duluth, Minnesota, and worked at Fitger's Brew House for 16 years, and then came on board at Earth Rider Brewery when we started up. I came on board in the fall of 2016 to help design the brewery and basically serve as general contractor, which was an interesting thing that I'd never done before. And then we started brewing beers in the fall of 2017. So it'll be our 8-year anniversary this fall.
Awesome. My story is a little different. I have been working in the service industry for close to 20 years. Did a little bit of everything from front of house, back of house, line cook, worked on a food truck for a minute. While I was managing a bar in Milwaukee, I got my Cicerone certification as well as a bourbon stewardship. And I really like the beer industry. I have so many friends in it, even before I started working in it. So I started working for a distribution company in Milwaukee with GB. And then I transferred to Madison when we moved into the area. Worked both those places for about a year each. Took some time off and starting to look for a job, and I had some friends saying that, hey, Earth Rider is looking for a Southern Wisconsin rep. So I applied, and here we are.
Awesome. Well, and so Frank, obviously Earth Rider was that first brewery in Superior in several decades. So do you know the story in terms of like what led Earth Rider to kind of selecting its location there in Superior specifically?
Sure. Well, so our founder, Tim Nelson, he was one of the two original owners of Fitger's Brew House in Duluth. Mm-hmm. And he sold his part of the company in 2015 and went about looking to build a production brewery. And he was really drawn to Superior, I know, because his grandparents or great-grandparents, but I think grandparents emigrated over from Sweden, I believe. And they owned a bakery like literally within a mile of where the brewery is now. So Tim had a lot of connections to Superior. There's a lot of great breweries in Duluth, but there hadn't been a production brewery in Superior since the Northern Brewing Company closed its doors in 1967. So felt like there was really an opportunity there, and decided to set up shop in Superior.
Absolutely. So I know I didn't ask this question when we got started, like I said I was going to before we started recording, but now is a good time to talk about it because you guys list 4 beers as kind of your flagships: the Superior Pale, Caribou Lake IPA, North Tower Stout, and the Tapjack Caribbean Lager. Now, Were those beers that you planned? Were those kind of beers that you planned on being flagships kind of from the get-go? Was it kind of, were there 1 and 2 in particular that, kind of like helped build up the brand per se? And then also, which one specifically are you drinking right now?
Well, currently I'm drinking a Superior Pale Ale. It's our best-selling beer, and it's my go-to everyday beer. There's certain beers that I will drink in the summer but not the winter, or beers I'll drink in the winter but not the summer. But the Pale Ale I'll drink any day of the year. So
awesome. Well, and we now have someone else jumping in here that I think we may need to talk to quick, and that is Tim Nelson. And hi, Tim. How are you doing this evening?
Hey, Joel. I'm doing good. Yourself?
I am doing great.
Music at the tap room, so I'm sorry.
You are great. This is perfect timing, Tim. The only thing we talked about was I mentioned bringing up kind of why you chose Superior, which I think Frank filled us in on, and we were just starting to talk about your flagship kind of core 4 beers and how that kind of shaped up. I guess was that something that I know he's drinking. Frank's drinking a Superior Pale Ale right now, and that's like your number 1 best-selling beer, but the general, Caribou Lake, North Tower, were those beers that you knew kind of early on were going to be flagships?
Well, Frank and we talked about it a lot, what's going to be our flagship beers. You probably mentioned we worked together at a brew pub in Duluth for a long time. And we had light to dark and a fruit beer. And so it was a brew pub model, so we always judged, especially in the 90s and the early 2000s, it was like going to a brewery, you judge the brewery by its pale ale. And so this is judge us all you want over our Superior Pale Ale. We were very proud of it. And because we started in the 90s, we like the West Coast style, the old school IPAs. So Caribou Lake is that. North Tower Stouts are dark option, obviously. Then the light has evolved once. We started out with a Helles lager, which we were really proud of, and still brew it once a year. And then now is the Tap Shack Caribbean style lager, which has been doing well. And then our fruit beers are rotating on a biannual basis, which is kind of what we did at the brew pub too, back in the day. So it's kind of modeled after what I did there with Frank for 20 years. And when I sold that and came over to Earth Rider found a place to start Earth Rider with Frank, and we kind of just slid that same idea over here for our tap room and then beyond. So you can sip on an Earth Rider all night, but it'd still be okay switching between styles. And at any one time, look at my fridge, like 6 to 8 different styles of beer we have out at a time. Probably more than that. 16 at the tap room, probably, right, Frank? I don't know, but So it's the brew pub model, trying to go a little bit more diverse. We don't have the constant rotation of recipes. We have a pretty solid brand calendar that we stay on task with it, and there's changes. There's small changes within the individual recipe to make them better and better all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously loved all your beers, especially when I visited. I've had them down here in Distro in Milwaukee. I am a huge fan of the Tap Shack Caribbean Lager. Was my favorite when I first visited. And Chelsea, I'm pretty sure that's the beer that you poured for me at the Wisconsin Beer Lovers Fest. Do you have? Is there one of the flagships that you tend to gravitate towards?
I actually go for both Superior and Tap Shack. Those are the first 2 beers that I had. When I was interviewing with them, I went out and bought 2 6-packs. My husband and I crushed them in a weekend, and usually that's what I go for, is use a Superior.
Yeah. I mean, yes, it's hard to go wrong with those. And, Frank, I mentioned before earlier, kind of my affinity for the Cedar Lounge when I was able to visit. So can you guys kind of tell the listeners kind of the background and the history there? Just to kind of talk about how you went about maybe kind of preserving the history while also kind of making it your own space.
Yeah, Tim can definitely talk to that better than I can, I would say.
When I left the brew pub, Fitker's Brew House is where we worked, and I started that in 95. And it's a historic old Fitker's brewery. It's really cool. It's right on the water. If you ever go there, it's pretty neat. But I was looking for the next location that could really speak to the beer as much as the beer spoke to it, and so we could build a community around what we were going to do. And drove around a lot around the Twin Ports, and really was driving by the Cedar Lounge, and there was a for sale by owner sign on the front of it, and the owner sitting out front, probably smoking a cig or something, and I just swung in real quick and. Oh, for sale by owner. Wow, that's really cool. And she had a giant field next to her where all the buildings used to be. And I just really always really was enamored with this area of the Twin Ports because it's right on the waterfront, but it's the working waterfront. It's what the Twin Ports really historically have been. A lot of it's gotten a little bit gentrified on the Duluth side, but Superior is pretty much still the working side of the harbor. And we got giant grain elevators in their backyard. We got ships. We got trains that are operating. Just walking in, there's a train hauling grain right coming in and out right now. And it's just like, wow, this is real. This really speaks to the Twin Ports. Great Grandpa's Bakery was 2 blocks away in the 1800s. It just it's really got a lot of soul, I guess, where we're at. And I think August Schell once said a famous quote. I think it's true. He said, "You can't make great beer without a great location." And I think we have a great location. It's inspiring to be here.
Have you ever had folks, like local folks, kind of come in and give you any like fun, like, historical stories or anything about the Cedar Lounge, like, even pre Earth Rider days?
Yeah. I guess it used to be called the Cheaters Bar.
Okay. Not beating around the bush.
Some older woman said that, this is where we used to come and cheat on our spouses at the old Cedar Lounge.
Yeah, they definitely did. They definitely, they did not leave much to imagination if that's what they were calling it, I guess.
Yeah, it's real. It was built in 1912 by the Northern Brewing Company as a tied house tavern. It's been a tavern its whole life. Maybe not during Prohibition, but I'd be surprised if it, who knows what's going on during then. I know that Duluth and Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Duluth and Superior went back and forth on during Prohibition, when it was legal, when it wasn't legal, and there's some battles going on. But because people run on the other side of the bay, right? Oh, it's illegal on this side. We'll head over to they go back and forth. It's been a long tradition of that in the Twin Ports.
Absolutely. So, kind of going back to the beer here for a second. I know that we've already talked about kind of the vision with some of your specific, in particular your flagships, and I'm sure that you knew that the quality of your beer from the get-go, but was there a point when you guys started winning all these awards, GABF, World Beer Cup, et cetera, along with increasing distribution, that you was there a moment where it kind of clicked? It's like, this is going to be a little bit more than just your run-of-the-mill brewery that I'm building here?
Well, I don't want to sound too arrogant, but I probably will come off sounding a little bit arrogant about this. But, I have a lot of confidence in my ability to put beers together, and a lot of confidence in our team. Allison Rolfe, who's our head brewer, is one of the most talented brewers I've ever had the pleasure of working with. And we put our heads together with the rest of the team, and we're coming up with great ideas, but also just, executing them well, taking care of the yeast. It's like they tell you when they're teaching you how to become a brewer in Germany and probably other places in Europe, is that the first thing you do is you learn to take care of the yeast, because without healthy yeast, you're never going to make great beer. You could have great ingredients and your fermentation's bad, it's never going to taste good. And you could have, average ingredients and great fermentation, and those beers are probably going to be better. So we spent a lot of time learning about our yeast, working with the yeast. You learn about it more the more you work with it. So any particular strain, they act different than others, and that's part of the learning curve when you're starting a new brewery. But we figured it out pretty quick. I mean, that North Tower Stout of ours has won a number of medals, and including World Beer Cup bronze in 2018. It was literally, I think, our third batch of stout that we ever made.
That's pretty cool.
And it won a bronze medal. It really, blew us away that, we had that success, that validation that early on. But we're, pretty confident in what we're doing. And and we're blessed to be able to, brew with great water. I don't know how breweries make great beer without great water, because that's really tough to do as well. And, Lake Superior water is outstanding to brew with. We're really fortunate to be able to do that.
Yeah, well, because what I was trying to get at was essentially the story about the North Tower Stout, like the fact that you guys got that kind of, reaction. Like you said, whatever, the third batch or whatever of it, like that is pretty incredible. I mean, I think there are very few and far between breweries that could say to have that kind of success that early on. And speaking of another beer that isn't, kind of the part of the flagship, earlier this year, you guys produced a new beer called 1 and 4 that benefits domestic violence shelters. So I always love seeing breweries that make beers to raise awareness and funds for different, worthy causes, because you've seen it in different parts, even in Wisconsin, around the country for different causes. So how did this one in particular kind of come about, and do you plan on brewing it again or doing anything somewhat similar for other causes?
That was really a project that was spearheaded by Allison, our head brewer. And so I have some information about it, about what we did. I know that we were approached to do something to try to raise awareness and to benefit some women's shelters in the Twin Ports, Duluth and Superior. And of course, we wanted to be able to do whatever we could to help out. And so came with the idea for doing this, basically a pineapple variant of the Superior Pale Ale, which turned out really well. We just had it on tap at the tap room, and it was very well received.
Yeah, that's great. I love, like I said, I'm a big fan of when breweries are able to support the community in that manner. And, now speaking not with beer, you guys also offer, hop water, seltzers now as well. Are there any other, non-beer offerings that you plan on doing in the future? And how important, like not just for you guys necessarily specifically, but just from a overall standpoint, how important has diversifying become for craft breweries in the current marketplace?
Yeah, like you pointed out, the hop water, we actually just canned another batch of that today. It turned out really good. We were looking for a non-alcoholic option for the tap room, at least as a starter. And brewing high quality NA beer consistently is really difficult. And honestly, to do it well, you probably need some fairly expensive equipment. And we decided that instead of going down that road, that we would go down the road of hop water, because I've had a lot of good hop waters in the market. Mm-hmm. And, as an idea, is something has some beer related flavors because the hops are in there, but something that's light and refreshing. And if you're not currently drinking, taking a break, or even in an evening, you've had a couple beers and you want to like have a water, have a hop water. It's a really nice break in your evening. So that's kind of why we decided to go down the hop water path. We're open to new ideas, but I mean, really at the heart of it, we're a brewery. We want to produce beer and produce world-class beer. And so that's really what our focus has been.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, as it should be. I have found it interesting that you have seen this kind of shift to, I feel like 10 years ago, the number of breweries that had the variety of different offerings was few and far between. And now it's become commonplace for breweries to have these different types of options, if not in distribution, at least on tap, in the tap room. So I would like to hear also some more, Earth Rider Fest seems like it's an absolutely huge, massive event there with your grounds. So I would love to hear kind of more details about how that kind of started, how it grew, and just the overall, what that means for the brewery and the community as a whole.
Yeah. And our music programs, I mean, another thing that we've been doing a long time is music in our establishments. So, Charlie Parr, those who know of him, he's been playing in our places for a good 20 some years, so so we just know that sometimes music helps sell beer and we really enjoy music, so especially now with it's kind of everybody's going for, we need to have more than just a tap room. We have to have an experience to go with it. We've always done that. It's not anything new for us. And so I think we got a lot of friends that help us out, with kind of play our places. And Earth Rider Fest in particular, we call it Friend Fest, as far as our little, because it's usually a lot of our friends come that we've known for a long time, and Eric Koskinen and a guy named Bernie Larson and Haley Bonner. Haley's plays quite often, and Dave Simonet and Dave Carroll from Trampled by Turtles. They've played it with their projects. Not Trampled by Turtles, but their other bands. And so it's just kind of something we've done, and we have this big field. We were going to build new construction in the brewery, but in that giant green space I mentioned earlier, but now it's got a stage and a stage roof, and people come and it can hang outside on the harbor front and enjoy music. So yeah, it's that's our pinnacle event. It's maybe not the biggest acts we'll have here in a year during their season, but it's definitely something Earth Rider Fest is something we love because it's our closest friends, and then we invite all of the accounts. We give away a lot of tickets to our partners, our wholesale and retail partners. It's a little bit of a reunion show.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and so is this something that, like you said at the beginning, how much has it grown for you? Like, is this something that has grown over the years in terms of the number of people attending and the number of acts, et cetera?
I think it's kind of getting just like our brand calendar, where we've gotten more focused. It was a 2-day event when we first started, and we focused down to one, like maybe in the year 3 of it. And it's just super condensed into just what's the best. And so that's what it's become. And as far as numbers of people, it really honestly depends on who's playing.
Yeah.
So it's been I think the most people we've had is probably 650, and the least we've had is like, I don't know, 300 maybe.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, and I'd have to imagine, I forgot to mention this when we were talking about the Cedar Lounge, so I need to loop back to it quick because it's something that I find to be very fun and unique. How hot is the ticket to get that Airbnb above the tap room for Rider Fest, or is that just kind of like because I've only ran into, there's only a handful of places in the entire country where you can stay at the brewery essentially. So what led to the decision to having an Airbnb above the tap room? And you guys have like incredible reviews on all the websites, so I'm sure people just love coming to stay there.
Yeah, well, the Cedar House it was originally built as the tavern keeper's apartment.
Okay, yeah.
So it's always been a house, and we used to office up there for the first 2-3 years, and then we finally moved our offices over to the brewery where there's a whole bank of offices. I don't know why we didn't. I guess we like hanging upstairs at the Cedar.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, people, it books up during the summertime for sure. I think we blocked it out this year for our talent to use during the
That makes sense. Yeah, but I just love doing that. That would have been a dream. You can just go hang out at the bar until it's like time for bed, and you don't even have to call anybody. You can just walk upstairs and fall asleep on just right away. So
right. Everybody in the bar says good night, Joel. Good night.
Exactly. I love that. You come and spend a few nights, and it's like you don't even have to leave the grounds essentially.
There's a door right from inside the bar that goes upstairs.
Yeah. Although I would say that, as I'm sure, as you guys know, you have talked about it, there is a host of other great breweries up there in the area. And I am a big proponent of the beer scene in the Duluth area, which I include, Superior as part of that. I've actually covered, I've written articles about like the most underrated beer scenes in the country. And when I wrote my book, I wrote about, the fact that Duluth, and when people ask me for the number 1 rated beer scene, my first answer is Duluth. And I think it's partially because of its location and the fact that it's not the easiest place to get to unless you are already in like, the Twin Cities or something. And even then, it's not necessarily a hop, skip, and a jump. But this beer scene there, what does it mean to be part of that overall community there between kind of Duluth and Superior when it comes to beer and otherwise?
Yeah, it's a great beer scene to be part of. It's something that I really appreciate. Really, when I was working with Tim at Fitker's Brewhouse in Duluth, we were one of only a couple of breweries in the area, and so there a lot of the brewers that went on to work in these other breweries that opened up after us came from Fitker's Brewhouse. So, there's people in pretty much every brewery in the area that I worked with back then, and so it's really fun to be able to see them and catch up with them, and like we went to a concert this last weekend, and I saw a bunch of folks there. It was really fun, and it's also was really nice because if if you need something, you have friends that you could reach out to. And I mean, I think that's the beer scene in general, but I think it's especially so in the Duluth Superior area, because, sometimes you have a part that breaks on your canning line, and thankfully, there's at least one other brewery in town that runs that same canning line, and they might have that part that you could use, so you can can that day and order your part to come in overnight and replace theirs. There have been numerous occasions where we borrowed, malt or hops because we ran out or had a switch in the schedule, and we were trying to pivot and make it happen. And everybody's super nice about helping each other out, so it feels good to be part of that community.
And it is a dense community. Duluth, I just heard something somewhere. Duluth has the most breweries per capita in the state of Minnesota, and we're not included in that. That was a Minnesota Public Radio thing, I think. So you count us into that, and Superior's not that many people. It's a lot. It's pretty dense beer scene for sure, and a music scene in a small town. It has a really incredible music scene and a really incredible beer scene, and it's you can do any outdoor sport. That if you name an outdoor sport, you can do it in Duluth or in the Twin Ports.
Yeah.
Even base jumping. It's a real short fall, but you can. But we got ice climbing, we got surfing, we got alpine skiing, cross country skiing, of course cycling. But we've got some of the best mountain bike trails in the around. Giant huge mountain bike scene. So there's a lot of cool things that happen here all year round, and it's a great place to live for sure. And we're inspired by it, and it inspires our brewing. Yeah.
Well, I mean, a rising tide lifts all boats is what, they always say about, and the fact that it's not just a dense beer scene, but it's a quality beer scene too. It's not just, a lot of breweries. It's like, there's a lot of great beer being made, which draws people like me to come and visit, which, I did make, the long trek up there, because I was like, I got to go try all this beer. And I was not disappointed. So, kind of a different question I have here is I often enjoy, seeing how brewers use art, and can art is something that I think is overvalued sometimes by people who go and buy beer solely based off of, oh, that can looks fun, like I'm going to buy it. But, it is the first opportunity for a potential customer to come in contact with your brand that, may not be a complete nerd like I am that already knows about you. So I've always been impressed with how your cans look like they fit together very well, but they are all also very individualized and distinct. So what was the process like trying to nail down what you wanted your brand to look like?
Well, again, that's something we meet and talk about for sure every week, and probably 3 times a week is our brand and brand consistency. Mm-hmm. When we were at our last brewery, was we want our message to be, we want that message to fit together. We want it to be an epic story of what Earth Rider is, and the packaging has to tell some of that story. So I wanted to have something that was a little bit handcrafted, and woodcut was my thought on that. And we were looking at different artists, and talked to another guy, this old biker who does these cool woodcuts of these motorcycle guys, and he's like, "Oh, I'm not a real artist, I'm like, "Oh, that's pretty cool posters you make." But no, he didn't want to do it. So our friend, he's the curator at the Marine Museum down in Winona, Minnesota, right on the border with Wisconsin. He suggested to look at Nick Rovleski's art, because Nick had done a show at that museum. And Nick was just happened. He's from Wisconsin, but he's moving to Duluth. So I looked at the stuff and I thought, man, it's nice. It's too nice. It was too nice. It's just so beautiful. His work, if you look him up online, Google him, I suggest it. He's got a website with all of his work on it. It's amazing work. And I knew that I wanted something a little more. We're right on we're in the working harbor. It had to have a little bit of an edge.
Grittiness.
A little more grit than his stuff is like fine art. How he does is he takes a block of wood and he starts carving, and he does the first color. He does 100 sheets of paper with his first color. Then he carves some more in the same block of wood. Then he does lays out those 100 sheets and does them again, and he carves it down. Every color is another layer of his, and so he has to think in reverse, right, when he's doing it. Yeah. he makes this relief in this woodcut. It's amazing. But yeah, so we take the color out of it. It does, and he every piece that we use for his pieces for our cans is commissioned for that purpose. And so we talk about what the beer is, what it represents, and he goes back and he creates that piece of art. First he sketches it, and what do you think about this? What do you think about this, perspective wise? And then he'll go back and make the art. So it is thought a lot of, thanks for noticing.
Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely love the artwork. And, we've already mentioned, some of the names, like Superior, North Tower. Are there any of the other beer names that, are significant to either you or the community that, are important to the brand just based off of their name?
All of them. They all have mean something.
Well, I mean, Superior, I think we can get, Superior. Well, and you were saying that it's the best one out there too.
No,
so,
I don't mean to be. I don't mean. Literally every beer name I think is about something that's local or has a local tie into it. Casket Quarry IPA, which is a winter seasonal IPA. There's an ice climbing cliff in Duluth that they water it down and freeze ice on it so people can. It's a park where people come and ice climb. So that's what that beer is for. Stony Point IPA, our summer IPA is Stony Point. It's surfing, as a freshwater surfing place right next to us. So it's on the Minnesota side as well. Precious Material refers to the malt that's getting loaded into the ships in their backyard. Superior, obviously. Caribou Lake is a lake that just north of us here, where my grandma grew up. North Tower is North Tower is where our brewery's at. So we did that at Ficker's Brewhouse too. It's very localized is how we do it, but we want a little bit of mystery to it. But yeah.
Well, it causes people like me to ask questions. That's what I always do when I'm visiting is, I love to ask questions about it. And, and speaking of that, I guess I should have asked this too, for people that may not know the story about the name Earth Rider.
Yeah, well, there used to be a building that sadly burned down a couple winters ago, and it was a really neat right on the slip, it's been empty, I guess, pretty much since it was built. Is what the local one of the administrators told me. It's never was successful, but it had these giant timbers in it. Brick is built by or designed by a famous architect, Oliver Trophagen, who also did the Duluth City Hall and these really amazing buildings over in Duluth. But he built these two warehouses, and on top of that warehouse, when it was like a junk store, some guy had painted on a piece of plywood Earth Rider, and it was just, you go over the bridge, and there's this plywood that said Earth Rider on it. It always just struck me like, wow, Earth Rider, that's good. I wonder what that's about. Interesting. And I just thought it was a cool name. So when we ended up here, it just kind of floated into call the brewery Earth Rider. And
now it does have a true meaning for the community. Like, it's now one of the best breweries in the whole state of Wisconsin, up there. So it's like, you have given it additional meaning, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I guess we have. I think it is starting to mean something on its own now, for sure.
Yeah. So speaking of, do you have like any future plans for Earth Rider, in terms of what you're looking forward to? I know, like you said, you pretty much have your beers that you like to kind of rotate through and everything, but is there anything else on the horizon for Earth Rider?
Well, I'd say one of the things we just accomplished, that was a goal of ours that we've been working on for a while, became a goal to be distributed throughout the state of Wisconsin by the end of 2025. And really, in the last couple of years, we picked up a lot of distributors throughout the state, and we just finished by signing with Larry's Distributing in Sheboygan, Wisconsin. So, kind of about the furthest from home that we could get in terms of driving to get to a spot in the state. And they're doing a great job for us, but we're really proud that we're available throughout the state.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm also happy for that as well, because I do enjoy getting, an Earth Rider, now and again. So, and I kind of want to, take a moment here to, I always like, one of my final things I like to ask folks, and in this case, each of you to take a turn to give just like a brief little, minute or two little elevator speech type thing, for what Earth Rider means and like why someone should come and visit. Chelsea, we'll actually start with you because you are the newbie. And so unlike these two guys, you were not there from the very beginning. You chose to kind of come on here more recently. And so what your thoughts are on Earth Rider and why you feel people should come and visit it.
It's such a cool place. When I went up for training, I got to stay in the Cedar House above Cedar Lounge, and exactly what you said. I got to drink beer in the bar downstairs and then go upstairs, have a 6-pack upstairs, and just crash out on the couch or one of the 3 bedrooms they had. And honestly, just the whole area is cool. The outside area is fantastic. I'm excited for Earth Rider Fest to come up and see music and enjoy myself. And really, you can't ask for better people. It's everyone that I've met at the company have been fantastic, from Allison to obviously Tim and Frank and Jeff and everybody that works at the Cedar Lounge themselves. It's just an awesome vibe. It's so cool.
Absolutely.
And it's good beer.
Yeah, and that's what a lot of it comes down to too, is people love the beer. So Frank, you're up here.
I'm up. So you want me to talk about why you should come visit us at the brewery,
or even just drink your beer? Both, either way, tomato. I think they're kind of different questions, but at the same time, just what Earth Rider in general for folks.
Well, one of the things I'll say about our beers across the board is that the idea behind our beers is drinkability, and for instance, like the North Tower Stout is a beer that we spent a lot of time when it came to formulating that beer in terms of like water chemistry and trying to figure out how to get that beer to not be too sweet but not be too astringent, and finding that balance. And that's been validated by a number of World Beer Cup and GABF awards. So I think our beers are as good as anybody's in the state, and a wide range of classic styles that are sure to please anybody that likes craft beer.
Absolutely. And Tim, this is obviously, from the get-go, you have had this vision for this brewery, and when people are experiencing it for the first time, like, what are you hoping they take from it?
I think if you visit the brewery and you sit in the Cedar Lounge, which is detached from the brewery itself, you're going to get it. Oh, I understand the flavors. The flavors will be understood,
Yeah.
I ran it as a tavern for a year before we launched the brewery, and people didn't know that we were building a brewery. We were kind of secretive about it, just because I want to get to know the neighborhood too and the people. But I'm gonna maybe Lenny will listen to this, but the paradigm of Lenny are a diesel mechanic, and he's a Bud Light guy, and he'd come in and he'd be drinking spirits or Bud Light. And then I said, well, what do you like any other kind of craft, kind of these European style beers? And he says, well, I like stout. And he kind of went into what kind of stout he likes. And now he's a diehard stout guy, he loves it. And so, he's a truck mechanic, and he's good at it. And that's our neighborhood. We got train drivers. We got people that work on the ships. We have, the grain elevator people, the people putting on mining truck tires over here, and then we have the visitors to the Twin Ports too, who are families with their kids, and the flavors are kind of they're beer flavors. We do, of course, we have fun too, but it's what just to speak just to that a little bit. Frank went to this account, and one of our he was a sales guy. He knows the story, but he goes out, and because we wear a lot of hats around here, and he was one of our 2 salespeople when we first launched too. And he went out to this bar. They said, "Well, we tried some of the weird beers before. Those weird beers don't do that well out here." And like Frank doesn't. He's not a pushy sales guy. He's like, okay, but now Spear Pale Ale is one of their. It does really well at that. It's the same. I mean, I think that new owners now, but it does really well at that little tavern. And so if we see our beer in the wild around here in the country bars, that's super validating for us. And I think the people that are looking, they don't want weird beer. It's bottom line. They want what I call center of the fridge beer. We make center of the fridge beer, and nothing wrong with weird beers. we laugh a lot about that one. So that's why I keep saying it. But you put those on the side of the fridge.
Yeah.
The center of
you
the
get them in the flight. That's what I mean. I'm a guy that my book is called Flights Across America. That's what I did, get flights, but like it's a flight beer. It's, it's the weird. It's getting the 4-ounce, 5-ounce pour. Yeah. It's not buy the 6-pack to go home and drink multiple of them. So yeah, you are preaching to the choir there. I totally get that.
And we're not alone in that. I know,
yeah.
Peter, but that's kind of it. We knew it was going to be a slow build. We didn't have the wow beer, super hazies or all the pastry stouts and things that are very, come and gone a little bit, honestly, but it's a lot. You don't get the real flashy wow factor maybe to our beers if you just read it on the board. But if you have it, it's like, oh, this is a really good representation, like Frank said, of classic styles. And it's just it's a lot of really cool things coming together. As far as really good people, like Chelsea said, making the beer. We like a lot of breweries, but we go out to Yakima and choose our hops. We get the best malt we can find. If we do make changes, we make them super slow. Frank's a scientist. He's got a master's in biology, so he's not making big sweeping changes. We're going slow to make sure it's not going to change what it is, and we want to have that heritage brand feel from the start. And I think we achieved that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, like I said, I'm a big fan of the beer. You can, I think I've said that. I don't know how many times I've said that while we've been recording. But to kind of cap things off here, I want to make sure to give you guys the opportunity to shout out where people can find you online, website, social media, et cetera, et cetera. Obviously, now most people, obviously, I think we have listeners in not just Wisconsin, but for the most part, obviously, that is where we are focused on. And so now, if you are in Wisconsin, you can probably go out and, if you look around hard enough, to go out and find some Earth Rider beer. And then besides the social media stuff, also, are you guys going to be, I know I just had you guys at the Wisconsin and Beer Lover Festival. Are there any other festivals around the state that you guys will be attending the rest of this year that people can go and find you at?
Yeah, the granddaddy of craft beer festivals in the state, the Great Taste of the Midwest, second Saturday in August. I think it's August 9th this year.
Yep.
We'll be there again. I'll be there. Chelsea will
Me
be
too.
there. Yeah, it's gonna be a good time. I really like that festival, and Earth Rider's been there the last few years. I haven't personally been there in a while, so I'm looking forward to getting back.
We'll also be at Milwaukee Brew Fest in a couple of weeks. We'll be at IPA Fest in Milwaukee. We'll be at Feast with Beast up in Green Bay.
Catfish Days this weekend at Trempealeau. We're going to be in the is it Cumberland this weekend too? Chautauqua. So yeah, we get out and about. We call it Earth Rider Beer in the Wild. Yeah. Catch us in the wild.
And then and where can folks find you online?
Earthrider.beer is our website, and there's a beer finder on there, so you can click on what you're looking for and find how close you can get it. We're in Minnesota, much of Minnesota, the northern part, and then all of Wisconsin. So.
Absolutely. Well, Tim, Frank, Chelsea, thank you guys so much for your time. This has been an absolute pleasure. I've loved getting to hear more about Earth Riders, both the past, present, and the future. I look forward to the next time I'm able to sample your beers. It sounds like Chelsea and Frank, I will see you next month, hopefully. And yeah, thank you guys again. And as always, everyone, whether it's where you are visiting or where you are living, be sure to drink local everywhere. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
Thank you.